life. We are born into it, live it, then leave it. But throughout that time, who do we become? With so many pivotal moments in each of our lives, how do these events intertwine within us? Specifically, the journey to become comfortable in your own skin can be a treacherous one, finding oneself amongst a sea of diverse individuals and surroundings. This can be especially difficult for those already seen as different because of something they can't help, their skin. Do you mind stating your name, your grade, and your ethnicity if you want to?
I'm Sarah Hussein. I am in grade 12 and I'm half Bangladeshi, half Iranian.
I'm Kiara Jones. I am a senior at Deep Run High School right now.
In your own words, how would you define the word ethnic or ethnicity?
I think ethnic I would describe as people kind of coming from like a certain background, having almost similar cultures, and kind of being almost immersed. Wow, that's like kind of hard to define, I think. I mean, for me, it's kind of been people of color, you know, as around my life, as I viewed that. So that's kind of what my first definition of ethnic would be, or at least how I've seen that growing up. But I do think it also kind of does encompass a bunch of like cultures wrapped into that as well. So
I think it's with people you're descended from, like who your parents, like what country your parents came from, or like the people before them.
Ethnicity, meaning the fact or state of belonging to a social group that has a common national or cultural tradition. So, with that, as a minority student going to Deep Run, which is a known predominantly white institution, how would you say that you represent yourself?
I don't know, it's a bit hard to say that because I can't really get an outside perspective as to how other people see me, but I would usually say that I represent myself well, maybe a little bit different to how people at Deep Run see people like me in their school. Because, you know, they definitely have their views of how they see the East End and stuff like that. So I feel like in their realm of being that I represent myself pretty well.
So with that crowd, or even just interacting with students who are white, would you say that you remain your authentic self, or do you try and hide the person that you are in any way?
I think Deep Run specifically isn't too bad in terms of racism, at least of like what I experienced. So other than like there being like majority white like faculty members and stuff, I didn't really like experience any differences than like what happened when I went to school. But like in both schools, issues of like when there's racial issues, such as like I remember one of the students went to an administrator and complained of using the N-word while like students were like on a Snapchat story or something, and like he was like immediately dismissed. Like stuff like that also happened at and like that's like the main problem. Like racial issues are kind of people in charge, and like the teachers don't really have that kind of experience to relate.
Much like a family, the classroom is a space full of people you essentially see every day, interacting with them, creating friendships, learning with them, and so much more. Developing a relationship between student, class, and especially the teacher. Start off, could you just say your name, the grades you teach, and the subject that you teach?
Okay, my name is Texler. I'm a high school math teacher. I teach currently Algebra 2 and AP Calculus. And there's a little bit of every grade level in my classes from 9th to 12th. I would say I mainly teach ninth, 10th graders, and 12th graders.
Do you mind saying your name, the grade levels that you teach, and the subject that you teach?
All right. Hello, I'm Megan Dalton. I teach World History 1, which is 9th grade, and AP United States History, which is 11th grade.
I teach math, which it's kind of difficult to incorporate things that happen just in the real world. How would you say that you try and bring that outside aspect into your classroom?
Yeah, it's really tough. I gotta be honest with you. Just with the amount of math concepts I need to get through, it's hard to divert my attention to something else. Every once in a while we'll go off on a tangent and talk about things. Maybe we'll talk about, our weekends, stuff like that, and that might transition to something else. But it's rare that we get into deep discussions in class. So a couple of things that I've tried to do that are unrelated to math is during the month of February to celebrate Black History Month, I put up quotes. I used to write the quotes at the top of my board. So every day there'd be a quote from an influential Black leader, from Martin Luther King, Michael Jordan, just all sorts of people, just to kind of have that out there. And this year I'm doing the same thing virtually, except there's more of a visual aspect, because it's easier to share that. During advisory class, which is a time where students essentially teach a lesson on something outside of the curriculum. And so this year I've had the opportunity to share stories, to have conversations with students about things outside of math, for the chance of talking about more real world, ways to react in society, how to conduct yourself, how to handle situations, stuff like that.
That drive to experience new things, how does that reflect in the environment of your classroom?
Specifically, I feel like I've got a lot of anecdotes that I can refer to with students. I think traveling has really helped the most with that. So when we learn about the Parthenon, I can talk about what it felt to be at the Parthenon and stand at the Parthenon. When we learn about Buddhism, I can talk about what it was like to be at Angkor Wat in Cambodia and meet with a Buddhist monk and what that felt like and what it looks like and what I saw. So having these anecdotes to share about my personal experiences with the class, I think makes a real difference. It makes everything a lot more tangible, real for our kids.
As a teacher, both could be either inside or outside of the classroom, how do you identify yourself as an individual?
What do you identify, racially or in what capacity?
More of kind of your demeanor and your attitude about teaching, interacting with your students, that sort of thing.
Gotcha. I think I'm pretty casual in that I act the way in my class, the same that I do around my friends. I'm social, laid back. I think I'm easy to talk to, at least I hope so. My atmosphere in my classroom, I try to keep things kind of fun and light by telling jokes, breaking up the monotony of math every once in a while. So hopefully it's kind of a welcoming atmosphere. Of course, math classrooms can be kind of tough in that respect, but I try hard to make it kind of warm.
And now thinking more a bit, not necessarily completely outside of the classroom, but not during classroom time, would you say that you inform your students that you're available to talk about things even outside of the curriculum and just what's going on in the world?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Anytime something that is real that's going on in the world, I make it known that I am available to talk to, because I know that you all, you exist in the world. Students are aware of the world to different degrees and in different ways. But when these things happen, if we as teachers just ignore them, you do not have a diversity of space to ask questions and explore when these things do happen. You know, if you only feel safe to talk to your sibling or talk to one friend, that's only one perspective. But if you feel safe to talk to other adults in your life, you know, you have a chance to connect with them and get other perspectives and other brains and ears to listen to your questions and your concerns and your curiosities, and to help you explore those.
For many individuals, family comes first. Thus, a bond unlike any other forms and grows throughout a person's lifetime. Not to mention, this is the group that teaches you the ways of society before anyone else does. So of course, life outside of the classroom can play a pretty significant role as well.
Let's think outside of Deep Run, or at least before you attended the school. How would you say your evolution of ethnicity and your culture came to be?
I feel like it kind of started out a little slow. You know, I grew up with mainly black people around me, my huge family, everything like that. So it didn't really I didn't feel out of place. So it just kind of felt like, you know, that's all I really knew. But I think my ethnic evolution really kind of started, or how I realized I was different, is in preschool when they pointed out that my skin color was brown like poop, I guess. So it was kind of just like oh, that's different. That's not exactly how I saw that. Yeah, but usually I grew up in a pretty black environment. So pro-blackness was what I saw even in my grandfather's art, you know, my grandmother's, some of the stuff that she owned or some of the stuff that they would talk about was very pro-black and everything. So I've always kind of grown up around that kind of stuff, and that's kind of just become a part of who I am.
Since you have a relatively good or strong amount of experience in predominantly white institutions, how would you define or categorize the environment at Deep Run specifically?
I mean, I didn't understand race in elementary school. Like, I think a big example of that was like, until like 6th grade, I didn't realize Beyonce was black. I was like, someone told me that, and I was like, I don't know, I just thought of her as a person. Like, I didn't think deeper. So, but like around 6th grade, when I realized like, I look different from a lot of the students and stuff, and like they don't eat stuff like I do, like horseshoe pamier, and like they don't know a lot of like the things that happen in my own house. That's when I realized like I was slightly different, and like at first like I wanted to be more white, and I hated a lot of my features, like my hooked nose or like my curlier hair. But like eventually, like by high school, I learned that like differences are better than like being the same as everyone else.
Similar to a parent though, a teacher must ensure that each student is heard and respected equally.
Do you try and bring those experiences that you have and that you've, I guess, experienced, do you try and put that into the inclusivity of your activities as a teacher?
Yes, yeah, I think anything that we do, goal is to be inclusive. So whether that is giving students the platform to share their own diverse experiences and their own diverse perspectives, or exposing students to diverse views and diverse perspectives. So in the case of travel and sharing stories about travel, there may be students that have also done travel as well, and they can share their experiences. Or maybe there are students who haven't traveled, but they have some kind of experience with that content that they can share. So whether it's practicing a religion that we're learning about, they can share their experiences with that. Or it's a work of art that they're really passionate about, that they've seen before, sharing their thoughts and feelings about that work of art and how it plays into history and what we're talking about. So I think in my sharing of anecdotes, also having a openness where other students feel like they can share their own experiences is really important. So modeling what it means to share an experience and the importance of sharing an experience and giving the stage for others to do the same.
This year has been like no other. Protests, riots, a global pandemic. You name it, 2020 has dished it out in some form or fashion. Nonetheless, how these events impact adolescents is a whole different battle within itself.
You previously mentioned the whole Black Lives Matter movement and things of that nature that happened in 2020 and also the recent events in 2021. How would you say that those events have impacted you and how you interact with your peers despite having to be virtual, but knowing that some of them may not agree with your viewpoints on the matter?
Well, in terms of communicating with my student peers, it seems that a lot of them have really shown their true colors when it comes to the whole Black Lives Matter thing, you know, openly talking about like their distaste of it and how they think it's violent. So I'd say that's hindered that for sure. For me, I feel happy almost that I don't have to go back into that environment because I know that there's some people that I'd rather not interact with knowing what they believe and everything like that. But I do think that the whole Black Lives Matter thing really reinforced a lot of my beliefs in how I view ethnic identity, and they've really kind of shaped that all for me, you know, seeing that we have to unite to face this common issue that Black people were facing and still continue to face at that time. And yeah, just personally seeing that there are a lot of people that can't even agree that Black Lives Matter is really frustrating. And it makes it really frustrating to communicate with some of these people because it feels like I constantly have to educate them, but some of them aren't looking to get educated. Some of them are just looking to debate or just tell me that I'm blatantly wrong about whatever they think is going on. So it's hard.
So moving on to, again, more with the present times and given the climate of the nation during the summer of 2020 and partially now in 2021, how do you believe this has impacted you in forming your ethnic identity or just being the person that you are?
Black Lives Matter was a huge thing. Like I participated a lot in it, and there's like people of all colors there, and like everyone supporting like the movement, and like especially like because of like police brutality, like towards all races, even like towards other people of color, like it's like horrible. But like more specifically, like Black people have gotten so much police brutality, but it helped because like I found a lot of people who were like-minded to me and like had a lot of the same issues. As I like, they looked at a lot of the same issues as I did, and they wanted to like debate them and discuss them, and like it was something that like led to more thought to deeper of like my identity and like who am I, like what does where I came from matter, how does it affect other people. And while it wasn't necessarily a lot about like, it didn't help as much with like becoming more of either ethnicity, like Iranian or Bangladeshi. It did help with being like, there are a ton of like-minded people out there, and like there's a ton of like people of color that like are similar to me and like have like talk similar to me and like I don't know, believe similar to me. So it was very easy to become friends.
Despite what may have occurred, change is always bound to resurface. Thus, a new age of teaching techniques should arise too. Should it not?
And based off of you going outside of the curriculum in some instances, do you feel as though the curriculum itself or even your extensions of it fully represent the cultural differences of your students?
I think there is a lot to be improved on, as everything always needs improving. There is action right now to improve on social studies SOLs. There's been additions to the U.S. history SOL to incorporate more African American history. There's an African American course being offered next year at Deep Run. So there is room for improvements. There are improvements being made, and I think there should continue to be more improvements. We have a huge population of Indian immigrants. We have a growing population of East African, of Middle Eastern. I have taught 2 students who came from China within the last 2 to 3 years, and 3 students that came from Japan within the last 2 to 3 years. So we have a very diverse school.
Understanding that in light of things that have happened more recently, as well as during summer of this past year and things of that nature, have you tried, at least in a virtual sense, open your classroom to where students can talk about those types of things if they choose to, or no?
I'm not opposed to it, that's for sure. If a conversation came about where we would talk about, civil rights and some of the stuff that's been happening, this past year, I would foster that to a degree. Of course, I need to, again, do my job as far as the curriculum goes, but I'm definitely open to having those conversations with my students. But to be honest, it didn't come up just because, again, in a math setting, there aren't that many hooks to where you could bring it. It would be kind of a random thing to just all of a sudden bring something up like that. But again, I'm not opposed to it. I think teaching in like an advisory class, like I mentioned before, that opens up the door more to having those types of conversations where we specifically talk about things unrelated to the curriculum. So I'm open to doing that. Recently, actually again this month, to celebrate Black History Month, I did give an activity, an assignment, involving students researching Black mathematicians. And this is not an assignment I created, so I don't want to take credit for it, but I am sharing it with my students where they pick a mathematician out of a list, they're all Black mathematicians, and then they just do some simple research to learn about that person's story, their math accomplishments, and then other aspects of their life. And from that, it gave me the chance to talk about some issues. For example, one of the students picked a mathematician who lived during the civil rights era. And back then, there were essentially literacy tests that people had to pass in order to vote, to be eligible to vote. And I believe that was under Jim Crow laws. And one of the Black mathematicians that was being researched actually helped their community pass those tests so they could earn the right to vote, even though they shouldn't have had to have earned it. So I think, again, it's kind of hard to talk about these things in a math class, but this activity gave me and our class the chance to kind of bring up those ideas and how Black mathematicians, they didn't just do math, they did a lot of other things, as everybody does. So I think it's important for the students to know that you might be good at one thing, but it's important that you know about a lot of things, especially when it comes to cultural awareness and what's going on in our society.
Now thinking more a bit, not necessarily completely outside of the classroom, but not during classroom time, would you say that you inform your students that you're available to talk about things even outside of the curriculum and just what's going on in the world?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Anytime something that is real that's going on in the world, I make it known that I am available to talk to, because I know that you all, you exist in the world. Students are aware of the world to different degrees and in different ways. But when these things happen, if we as teachers just ignore them, you do not have a diversity of space to ask questions and explore when these things do happen. If you only feel safe to talk to your sibling or talk to one friend, that's only one perspective. But if you feel safe to talk to other adults in your life, you have a chance to connect with them can get other perspectives and other brains and ears to listen to your questions and your concerns and your curiosities and to help you explore those.
Alright, so understanding that you are a senior this year and you'll soon be graduating Deep Run, how do you feel you are prepared for the future outside of this school and then anything of that just kind of life?
I feel pretty good, honestly. I feel like I personally have a pretty good understanding of other cultures and other backgrounds, and I feel like I do make an effort to learn about them because that's personally what I really like to do. So I do feel pretty good stepping into the world and getting to experience other people and other experiences. I'm kind of excited for it, honestly.
Do you feel as though with your experiences at Deep Run and even some before that, do you feel as though you are prepared for the future since you are a senior and you're going into adulthood? Do you think you're prepared to go out in the world not only as a student but as a well-rounded individual?
I think because most colleges I'm applying to are also majority white, like, especially because I want to go to Colorado, like University of Colorado Boulder is extremely white, University of Denver is extremely white. Like, I'll be used to that kind of environment and everything. It might be even worse if you run, but like, it's helped because I understand like that there aren't a lot of people like me around and have to deal with that. But also like I don't have the amount of like connections to other cultures as I could have. And while I definitely tried to foster those independent of our school, and like I've definitely like I have a lot of friends from other schools, or like I tend to make friends with like a lot of people who are zoned to Deep Run because like a lot of people of color, or like not zoned to Deep Run, like zoned to other schools because a lot of them are people of color. And like that I didn't intentionally do that, like I just and it helped with like making sure that I foster relationships with other people of color in like different areas, but also it's a bit annoying to have to like not find any people like you in the same environment. But I don't think that's affected my like how I'm gonna be in the future. I think it just means like I'll do well in like my like workplace or something because I'll be very used to adulthood.
In graduating and leaving your last few remarks, do you have any suggestions or possible implementations that Deep Run could do to better its environment or at least encourage students to be more open-minded?
Well, I would love for what I said about like history courses of different countries that focus different continents that focus specifically on the countries within that continent. I don't think that's a feasible option because I don't think we have that many teachers or like that many like people who are specialists in that kind of field. And like it would be a lot of money in order to implement those. But like even just like a club where like it's like these are the different clubs for different like continents, and we'll talk about what's happening in those countries, and like it won't like it doesn't even have to be like a you have to do this and this and this for this club. It's just sort of like a club where like you just show up and learn if you want to. I think that'd be really great, and I definitely would have joined that if I had the option.
You leaving Deep Run, do you feel as though there are any last remarks or suggestions that you have for possibly the administration, teachers, students, anyone, just so they can understand your perspective of dealing with issues of ethnicity and prejudice?
Hold people accountable. It feels like a lot of people at Deep Run, if they do get called out for like something they do that's racist or a little bit wrong, it feels like they're not really being confronted about it. Like personally, you and I have been through this where there was like an incident in freshman year and you know, we reported it, but nothing happened. There was no follow-up. Or even when people were talking about some students saying the N-word, and the teacher was like, oh, it's just a song, let them sing it, it's just a song. It's not just a song. And it feels like nothing is being done to prevent other people from like, it's a slippery slope is what it feels like. They let one person off and the other people get off on it as well. Like, it doesn't feel like anything really ever happens to them. So I think just holding people accountable is enough for me, because it doesn't really seem like that happens super duper often at Deep Run in terms of racial issues in the school.
Finding people of different cultures and different backgrounds, would you recommend that for other students of color or just students in general to do?
I think every single person should have a friend group of all different races. I don't think your friend group should be all black or all white or all Arabic. Like, your friend group should be something that, like, for example, my friend group has like two or one black person, one like mixed person, like one like I'm Persian and brown, and like there's a brown person, like an Indian, or like and a white person. You know, like there's like all different types, but like it helps because we get different viewpoints. It's not just one type of person where like everyone relates to each other, so like they don't really get different viewpoints. And like while it does sometimes lead to some conflict, especially if like the white people does something that's unacceptable, or like something like saying the N-word, and like that leads to a lot of conflict, it can be like worked through. And like I think it's better than like having only one viewpoint of an issue.
And understanding your growth and mindset, would you recommend that your students also try and diversify their life, not necessarily the same way, but at least trying to in a way that you did?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Exposing yourself to more experiences and more perspectives is going to make you a better person, for sure. And that's something that I really want my students to understand. You know, whether it's a small thing like diversifying your social media feed. So for Black History Month, we've just been having little conversations every day in U.S. history about the month and what it means, and our class and our curriculum. And one day I challenged them, go out, you know, look at your Instagram, look at your TikTok, who are the people that you're following, and then go and find people that are beyond that category that you already follow. So it's not that you need to, you know, start following things that you aren't interested in. You know, think, you know, whatever you're interested in. You're interested in cooking, you're interested in playing music, you're interested in, you know, soccer, whatever it is. Like, go out and find people that are in your interest but have different experiences than you, whether they're a different race, a different ethnicity, a different religion, they live in a different country, they're in a different socioeconomic status or level. You know, find somebody that has a different experience than you in life. And that's, I mean, we rag a lot on social media, and there are a lot of things to rag on social media for, but there's also a beauty to it, that you can follow people who live on the literal other side of the world and have a totally different day-to-day life experience than you, or who work with people who have a totally different life experience than you. And you can see that and see that in a unique way that we never have been able to in the entire history of the world. So yeah, diverse your experiences, diverse your social media, or diversify your social media.
Do you believe that your students are prepared for the future, not only as scholars, but also just as individuals going into a new phase of their life?
I think somewhat. They're more prepared by the time they leave high school than from when they entered high school, I'm sure of that. But they're still in a bubble. You know, really all high school students are in a bubble to a degree. And I think, you know, where I teach, they're definitely in a bubble as well culturally. And so I think there have been a lot of things that the school's implemented, a minority student union and other activities, and that have maybe helped students learn more and grow more to be better prepared for what experiences they'll encounter and the people that they're going to meet. But to be honest, I think that there's going to be a lot of growth after they leave high school, as with any person ever. After high school is when you become an adult and you really start, you're kind of on your own as far as the experiences that you provide for yourself and how you react to them. But I think for the most part, they do learn a lot through high school, and they have a lot more to gain, but I think they get a good amount while they're with us.
Given everything in one's past, present, and potential future, there lies one final question. How do we move forward? Well, together, through open-mindedness and empathy, we can all feel respected, understood, and heard within our community. So grow, you cultural butterfly, because your evolution has only begun.